Can you hear me okay?
Voice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I make sure I can hear you. Can you guys say something again? Make sure I can hear you guys okay?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. That's good volume for me. All right. Well, we're gonna give it a couple more minutes to let people get in here. Actually, you know what? This is recording, so I think I'm just gonna go ahead and get started right away. Let's see where we want to go. Start with. Okay. All right. Okay. You guys see the screen right here? The PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, we'll just go ahead and jump right in since this is recording and everything. And all right, so remember the color codes going to be important as we're going through. And I mean, again, usually I use this when I'm making my practical questions or practical images, I guess, and setting that up. So for the lab practical, it applies the most to there. But I try when I'm picking test questions to maybe concentrate more on the red and white. But I don't follow it at, you know, I'm not as strict about it by any means for the actual test, just so you're aware. All right, so we're mostly going to be going through basic concepts, and really that's what these Zoom meetings are going to be about going forward for the next 4 sections, just to kind of put everything together, talk about things generally, and then, you know, maybe if there were any holes in the videos. One thing I noticed, and again, we're with these videos, you know, I'm doing these to supplement the videos. Partially because I'm finding what's getting posted. The videos themselves aren't poor quality, but the amount is fewer because we've had a number of people drop the class, so groups are smaller. I have, you know, as I said, okay, you need to be posting what slides, your videos are over. People are posting only 1 video over 2 slides, and okay, that's my part of the project or part of the thing. Well, the thing is your group should be, you know, is responsible for all of that. Now, and you may say, well, what if someone else in my group posts just 1 video and I post 10 or whatever, you know, for the rest? Well, you should split it up relatively evenly. So if there are 3 people and there are 30 slides, then each should get about 10 slides worth of information. So as long as you've done that, then yeah, you're going to get full credit and the other person won't get credit. But you know, that'll probably be moving forward anyway, so I'll see. But I'm really, the videos are kind of to get you engaged more into the learning process anyway, so I'm not too worried if it doesn't work out, as long as I can see the people in class are trying. So anyhow, all right, getting to the actual information on the slides. All right, so functions of the nerve. So you have different kinds of nerves throughout the body. You have your sensory nerves and your motor nerves. Of your sensory nerves, the two that I think are most important, because I don't know, maybe it's just me in my profession, they're most applicable, but your proprioception, all right, and this is what allows me to close my eyes and know that my hand is open, my hand is closed, I can touch my nose, you know, things like that. It's the awareness of your body in space. Okay, you know, it's what helps your body when you're running, you know, to keep things balanced so that you're not constantly rolling your ankle. However, interestingly, a lot of you that may have rolled ankles before notice that it kind of happens more often. And there are a couple reasons for that. One is obviously damage to those ligaments and tendons in the area, make them weaker, yes, but also damage to the proprioception in the area, keeps your body from being more fully aware. So you can say it makes that area more clumsy. And so not only is it going to be easier to damage it worse, but it's also going to be easier to damage it in the first place. That makes sense. And then you've got nociception, that's your pain. Mechanoreceptors, thermoreceptors, photoreceptors, chemoreceptors are pretty self-explanatory based on the name. The interesting thing you have, so mechanoreceptors and chemoreceptors. If any of you have been as stupid as I was once when I was a mere roughly 20 years old, you played something called the pass out game, where you would, you know, breathe super deeply, and then you would like put your hands over your chest, right, and go up against a wall, and you can make yourself pass out. I had another kid, he told me, oh, it's a lot more efficient if you go and you put your hands just real up to their sides of the neck like this. I know you guys are saying this sounds really stupid. Yes, it was. I'm acknowledging that, but it's an interesting story to illustrate mechano and chemoreceptors, or I guess more mechanoreceptors. So when your carotid artery splits into the internal and external arteries and has what's called the carotid sinus there, it's a little larger part, where it splits, it actually enlarges, and it has mechanoreceptors to sense for pressure. So if the pressure gets super high, then it tells the heart you need to drop the blood pressure. And so what happens when people were doing that, why it was so much more effective, is you're putting mechanical pressure, not blood pressure, onto those blood vessels, onto the carotid sinus, and you're confusing them, and they think your blood pressure has shot through the roof. So what does it do? It drops your blood pressure. The amount of blood flow to the brain ceases, you know, and it shuts down. And so that's what happens. The chemoreceptors in the area are, you know, to help check for, because obviously you've got a lot of blood going to your brain. So it's a good place to capture, oh, what kind of chemicals are going through my body? Do I need to increase the amount of oxygen? Do I need to decrease the amount of carbon dioxide? Do I have poisons going through my body that I need to worry about and start to do something with? So, you know, all these types of nerves have their own kinds of functions. Oh, that went a lot quicker. So then down here, you've got your motor nerves. All right, you have somatic, that's nerves under your conscious control, and your autonomic, which is your subconscious. We'll talk about that when we get to the autonomic. Your nerve types, be aware of the different nerve types, be able to identify those, pretty clear cut here. See if I got any insights on that. Your Schwann cells and your oligodendrocytes do the same thing, except one does it in the central nervous system, one in your peripheral nervous system, okay? Ependymal cells, all right, I don't even know if I'm saying that. That's these ones right here, all right, and these essentially help these create what's called the blood-brain barrier, and we'll actually go into that in Unit 3, Section 5. So part 1 of Unit 3, a little bit more about, I think, CSF production, but that's if you've heard of the blood-brain barrier, they're key in that, because they're what creates CSF and helps filter that. These astrocytes here are also important to that blood-brain barrier. They help essentially create a selective permeable barrier, so that not so much can get in and out of those capillaries as it's going through the brain. So you can see an oligodendrocyte and Schwann cells right here, that myelin sheath we'll be talking about. So parts of the nerve. We'll just go here, cell body right here, dendrites. These are going to receive signals. You got your long axon going over here with your little Schwann cells in between, the nose of Ranvier, the axon hillock, axon terminals that are going to be connecting to dendrites of other nerve cells. Okay, the action potential. All right, so what you have here, all right, is a nerve at resting potential. So your nerves, they're going to have a resting charge, okay, and it's going to receive a stimulus. And if that stimulus goes above the threshold, then all of a sudden it's gonna start a, I guess, uphill spiral rather than downhill. But so then you're gonna get depolarization of the cell. All right, it's gonna spike, and then the cell is gonna say, okay, we need to repolarize and get back to normal. And then it's gonna drop below the threshold, and then it's gonna work so fast and so hard that it's actually gonna drop below your normal. So that's called hyperpolarization right there. All right, and then it's gonna kind of slowly just through diffusion and what's the word? I'm blanking on the word. The differences in ions, different levels, those are going to slowly level off. All right, using the sodium-potassium pump, which I think I get into here. Axon terminal. So just know what's going on here. So you've got these little synaptic vessels that are holding your ACH or whatever your neurotransmitter is, which is going to vary from nerve cell to nerve cell based on the based on the kind of nerve that it is. Somatic, autonomic. It's gonna change what kind of neurotransmitter that you have, and that way actually one thing that can do is it can allow different types of nerves to synapse with the same area on a nerve but still get a different effect. All right, so you can have a nerve coming into this area from the CNS, and another nerve coming in here from somewhere else, like in the arm or something, right? And if they have two different kinds of neurotransmitters and you have the two different kinds of receptors in here, then this dendrite right here is going to have mechanisms where, when this receiver gets a message, then I send this signal this way or whatnot. So you're going to help to differentiate a little bit between that. And then here, just knowing your parts, the synaptic cleft, okay? I mean, it's, again, I have an image right here. So hopefully, temporal summation versus spatial summation. So this essentially is going to be temporal summation. When you have this action potential here, obviously when you're going to have lots of tiny insults, tiny stimuli going, but it's not going to reach that threshold to start an action potential. And so sometimes what will happen is you'll have to have lots of really fast ones going in quick succession, and that's just it's not gonna give time for it to return back to normal, okay? And so one right after the other, and that is gonna be then cause it to reach threshold and start let's undo that. And you'll get an action potential there. Then spatial summation, that is essentially when you've got multiple axon terminals, right, are going to be synapsing with multiple dendrites, and so the whole cell is receiving multiple inputs at a lot of different spots, so physical location. All right, so multiple impulses occurring simultaneously along that body. So you might have one coming in from over here and over here and over here all at the same time, and they summed together allow it to reach threshold. All right. And I actually think there's a slide that I want in here that's not. And I'll probably make an announcement about it because I think that's information that I want you to know about the different kinds of nerve cells that receive different kinds of stimuli. But the important thing to know about that is that the different kinds of sensory cells that you have in your finger, especially for touch, they will adapt based on either spatial or temporal summation at different rates. So one might need 1 million pulses in a millisecond for it to reach threshold, and one might only need 2 or 3. That will get obviously a different effect. It'll make an area more or less sensitive. So not only having more nerves in an area, but having lower threshold sets, being more prone to having a temporal versus spatial summation can all affect that. All right. So here you can see spatial summation, temporal summation. All right. Okay. Types of neurotransmitters that you can have. These ones mostly just be aware. You can have dopamine, serotonin, histamine. But if it's a cholinergic, all right, nerve, then it's going to use acetylcholine. If it's adrenergic, then it's going to be norepinephrine. If you're, the reason it's called adrenergic is because epinephrine is actually, like in Europe, they actually call it adrenaline and noradrenaline. So that's part of where that comes from. It's the same thing, but I actually saw that randomly one time. I wondered. Anyhow, so all right, your processing. I had explained this in another one. I don't think there's too much to clear up here, really. But parallel essentially is one message is getting sent, via 2 different lines, and it might spread out. So you might have a message from the brain going to one nerve up here, and it sends a message to balance is a good one, actually. So you're running. While you're running, you've got lots of parallel processing going on because your brain is receiving or usually sending out inputs to both your foot that it needs to land and your back that it needs to, extend or flex or, turn over, right? When you're balancing, you have these muscles that are fine tuning. And so that's a great example of parallel processing, whereas serial processing is just one signal going to one place at a time. So a good one might be digestion. Your brain tells the bowels digest, and they do it. And that's usually along an autonomic path. All right. Yeah, diverging circuit, converging, pretty simple. Reverberating, all right, oscillating. So this example right here involved in breathing, sleep-wake cycle, repetitive activities such as walking. All right, that's your purpose for that. This one here, I really don't know. Besides what's here, you don't really see parallel after discharge processes happening a lot, like it says, except in mental processes. So it's just really, really complicated. I don't even, besides just being able to, for the practical, identify and differentiate between, oh, this one is my parallel after discharge. Okay, this one is reverberating because you can see because it's got these here. Okay, this one I've got converging, right? 3 signals going onto one, right? And then I might say, oh, like, is this one here, is it parallel processing or serial processing? You could say that it's, actually, this isn't a good example because you could argue it's serial because it has one input and one output, okay, as you can see there. Whereas this one would be a good one. Let's do this one. This one here, parallel, you've got one input, all right, but you know, it's going to many different outputs here, all right? So let's see. Okay, sympathetic versus parasympathetic. If I could say, if I were a teacher and I were making a test and I understood, especially for the medical community, how important sympathetic and parasympathetic, you know, understanding these two words, I would probably make a lot of questions on the test about it, just hypothetically. Lots of questions as he was going over the test, and realizing he asked a lot of questions, but he's not going to take any off because it's pretty important that you understand the differences. That'd probably be a pretty smart teacher for doing that. Maybe not as smart for telling his students to study that a lot. Okay, so sympathetic. This is going to be your fight. See, I even misspelled it. Flight. Let's make a little edit. So fight or flight response. All right. This is, you know, you can imagine, I like to, you know, you're going through the woods and you see a wolf in front of you, right? And it's dark. So first thing that your body's going to want to do, well, one of the first things is it's dark out, right? Or no matter what situation, even if it's light out, you want to be able to see, you want to see your exits. So it's going to dilate those pupils, let in light, all right, and allow you to better see your surroundings, all right? Then what it's going to do, it wants you to get oxygen to your muscles fast. So what it's going to do, it's going to constrict blood vessels throughout your body, specifically ones in your stomach area, right? Because normally you've got lots of blood vessels that are very dilated there. They're getting nutrients, and it's like, all right, we're done with that. We want to get all the blood out to the muscles because the muscles are what's going to move us away from this wolf. All right. So then it's going to increase heartbeat, blood pressure, breathing rate, so you can get oxygen to those muscles so they don't wear out fast. All right. Boom. Covered all right there with sympathetic. All right. And before I go to the physical aspects of sympathetic nerves, let's just talk about the purposes of parasympathetic. Opposite. You don't have to remember, okay, sympathetic does this and parasympathetic does this. No, it's remember the sympathetic list and know that parasympathetic does the opposite. All right. So if you just know, okay, he's asking me if parasympathetic does this. I don't know what parasympathetic does, but I know it does the opposite of sympathetic, and I know what sympathetic does. So sympathetic does this, which means that parasympathetic has to do that. Great study tip for that. All right. Okay. Your sympathetic nerves are going to be located in your thoracolumbar spine, essentially from roughly like T1, T2, all the way to L4, L5. Okay. These are going to have a short neuron coming from the spinal cord that goes to the sympathetic chain, and then a long neuron from that chain to the end organ, and we'll go over that. Whereas parasympathetic is, oh, look, the thoracolumbar spine. What isn't the thoracolumbar spine? The craniosacral spine. All right, so it's going to come out of those areas. Oh, sympathetic has a short neuron going from the spine to the ganglion. Well, look, you've got long neurons going from the spine to the ganglion. All right, and then short neuron going from the ganglia to the end organ. So if you look at these images here, all right, you can see you've got this sympathetic chain, which are all of these ganglia. All right. Ganglia are gathering of nerve cell bodies, all right, outside of the central nervous system, all right? So it's where all those cell bodies kind of lie, because they're like those bulky, right? So when you have areas where you've got limited space, like the spinal cord, you've got tons and tons and tons of nerves, all right? You don't have room for any of the cell bodies in there. So what's going to happen is it's just going to, all right, let's displace all these cell bodies outside of the central nervous system into these ganglia, and we can just use up space there, okay? So for sympathetics, these are going to come out and they're going to synapse in the ganglia, all right, with the dendrites that are attached to those cell bodies, okay? and then they're going to go out from there to whatever your end organs are on the side. All right. Then over here, the parasympathetic is just going to be opposite. You're going to have these really long nerves coming out of the neck and the sacral area, going all the way to smaller ganglia that are inside of the individual end organs, and then synapsing from there. Okay. All right. Reflexes. Knowing about these reflex arts. All right. What's going on. Okay. You have here, you've got a receptor that's going to receive some kind of stimulus, all right, and that's going to be from a sensory neuron, sensing things, all right, and then this is going to go, all right, back to the spinal cord, and it's going to have an interneuron here. Now, generally, all right, and is this schematic? Interneurons actually are only going to stay inside of the spinal cord. They're not going to go up into the brain. All right, and that's on purpose. You have a reflex, you want a quick response, having to go up to the brain, and I mean the brain is quick, yeah. But if you want something done even quicker, it's like, we're just gonna bypass the brain because you're gonna think about stuff and worry about stuff and start to calculate. We're just gonna bypass you on this one, all right? And so it's gonna go to this integrations in here, interneuron, all right? And then it'll send then an output, all right, along a motor neuron, which is going to move something into an effector, which is going to affect some kind of response here. All right. So this is why, like, you know, some people that are paralyzed, paraplegic or whatever, they still have some reflexes that you can, you know, sense. And that is because they, you know, wherever at that level of the spine, all right, the reflex, it's all it's doing is going back to the spine. It doesn't have to go up to the brain. If you have that severed spinal cord, it doesn't have to worry about it because it doesn't have to go up any higher. So that's why you can still have those reflexes. However, all right, when we get to something like the spinal reflex, the muscle spindles, there is going to be a little caveat to that. All right, yes, okay, you are going to have, you know, an input along a sensory, then an integration center, okay? However, what you'll find, and this is actually, so if you sever your spinal cord, so you had your patellar reflex, right? And in your patellar reflex, you strike it with your little reflex hammer, and the leg kicks. Now I want to ask you, if you have a severed spinal cord, are you going to have that reflex or not? Okay. And the answer is you will not only continue to have that reflex, but you will in fact have an exaggerated response. And that is because your brain is continuously sending signals to dampen that response. All right. And so when your spinal cord is severed, that dampening effect is lost. And so you get that reflex. It goes to the integration center, which says we need to contract this muscle, and it's going to contract it as high and as hard and as tight as it can. All right. And so that's why we have a grading system of from 0 to 5, and 2 is normal. You've got, you know, your 2 is your normal reflex, 1 is diminished, 0 is no reflex. We use that. Usually it says, when I'm testing someone, it says, oh, something outside of the spinal cord is happening, okay, to essentially limit the signal going to and from the spine, all right? So it's a peripheral entrapment. Whereas if I have an increased reflex, that means it's happening here in your central nervous system. So you might have a severed, you know, spinal cord, or if they're walking into my office, then it's probably something else going on that I need to refer them out for treatment, because I'm not going to be treating their brain. All right, just mostly peripheral stuff. So that's the signal for me with an increased response. That, oh, I need to get you to someone else. I'm not going to be treating you today. Thank you. All right. So yeah, that's it. So The muscle spindles, all right, these you can see here are round muscle fibers, and they essentially are checking for your muscle stretch, all right? Whereas you've got, what is it here? Your Golgi tension organs, all right, those are gonna be, Golgi tendon organs are gonna be around here in your tendons, all right? Also checking for the tension, all right? All right, brain anatomy. So we actually, I guess we got through. So got through it in half an hour. I'll open it up to questions here after I'm done. Brain anatomy, parts. Something you should be aware of. I didn't get around to changing the PowerPoint before I started class, and so I won't make you responsible as far as for testing purposes to know this, but I want you to know that with your precentral and your postcentral gyrus, right, that's where your brain is going to be processing sensory and motor information. And so you've got here your, right, so your precentral gyrus and your postcentral gyrus, all right? And your precentral is, oh boy, let's see if I can remember which one it is. Yeah, is going to be your, whatchamacallit, your sensory, all right, and postcentral, all right, is going to be your motor responses. I actually want to double check that. See if I remember. So give me 1 second. I don't want to tell you wrong because I'm still easy to get these confused. Precentral motor area. Ah, okay, got them mixed up. Precentral is going to be your motor, and postcentral is going to be sensory. All right, and if you've ever heard of the what is it called, the brain homunculus? All right, the brain homunculus is that little weird looking actually. Let me go ahead and pull that up. So I'm going to stop share. And over here, okay, where have I got it? I'm going to share my, where is it? Is it? Okay. Share just main screen. Come on now. Plus. All right, so I'm just gonna brain homunculus. Look up images. All right, this is a good one right here. So if you can see here, this is just like, so with your sensory, all right, versus your motor homunculus. All right, so these, the size of these represents how much area is taken up processing information for that area. All right, so that's the like brain homunculus. All right, that you can look up. But just wanted to go over that. So let's bring back the PowerPoint. Share that. Okay. So that just we'll go over that. Okay. Just knowing all these areas here. Again, if I'd remembered to, I would have boiled down some of the roles of these areas. I'll go ahead and I'll post that up instead of discussing it here. I wish I had a nicer image for like where all these things, so these are your basal nuclei right here. So just be familiar with these areas, what's happening here and going on. More brain anatomy. So as you're looking through these, just go through what's in, what's in my slides, and then look at the picture. If it has more information labeled in the picture than what's on the slides, Great. Don't know it. Don't worry about it. Okay. All right. Okay, your spinal cord cross section. Here's your spinal cord cross section. All right, pretty straightforward. All right, cranial nerves. All right. Know your cranial nerves. And as far as the anatomy goes, now I want to show you a little trick to knowing and identifying your cranial nerves on someone. All right, you may think like, well, how do I know which cranial nerve is this number? You know, is this? Well, first off, it'll help if you memorize the names. All right, and order based on this. What is it? An acronym, or no? Acronym is whatever it's called. And so right there, you can use that to help memorize the names with with their correct order. And then once you do that, you come over here to this picture and you kind of just go, this is your anterior part of the brain, this is the posterior, all right? So if you just count from anterior to posterior, you can get them all. So this is your first cranial nerve, second, third, fourth, fifth. Oh yeah, and it goes medial to lateral, okay, as well. So then you've got all these here. Well, which one's more anterior? Well, great, go from medial to lateral, all right? So we've got 5, I think this was, right? Oh, right here. And I'm not even looking at the numbers. 6, 7, 8, okay? And then I think the only one that's an exception here is the hypoglossal nerve. So 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12 right there. Okay? Boom. And you've just named all your cranial nerves just going through. So if you can name, just go through, okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right? And then you just say, okay, I have all those labeled now. What were the names? OOO, to touch and feel vintage green velvet. OOO is olfactory, optic, oculomotor. Olfactory, optic, oculomotor. Oh, boom, look, I just got the first 3. Easy peasy, all right? Peripheral nerves, okay. Another thing, know your brachial plexus, all right? Draw it out for yourself. Something I'll do, I'll put up here in a second, but just know what, be able to label what are the roots, where are your trunks, right? Anterior, posterior divisions, okay, going through, all right? Just know this really thoroughly. Now, what I do need to do, actually, let me go ahead and again, let's stop share. This is the main screen. All right, let's see if we can get here. Oh, hey, look, I was working on the lab practical study guide for y'all. I'm just gonna get an extra page here. All right, let's bring this down. Okay, so if you would like to very quickly draw out your brachial plexus, okay? Let's do that one there. And I don't want to draw with touch. I want to draw with a pen. There we go. Okay. All right. So you have, is it really not going to do this for me? Oh, okay. Sorry. My computer is going slow. All right. So you've got your 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 9 is not C9, it's T1. Haha. All right. These two are going to come and they're going to connect. All right, like that. And then this is going to continue on like this, continue on like this, continue on like this. All right, then you're going to split anterior division. All right, is going to go off like this. Posterior division like that. Posterior division is is going to come down like this. Anterior is going to come across like that. And then you're going to have anterior is going to come down like this. And posterior is going to come down like that. All right? And then what you're going to get is this one down here. This little posterior chord is going to come down here, and it's going to turn into your radial. And then you're going to have your axillary. All right? And then these are going to continue on down, just like this, just like that. And right here, all right, this is going to become your musculocutaneous. This here, this is going to become your ulnar. And then these two in here are going to come, bring a branch to the middle. All right, and they are going to form your median nerve. Okay, so if I draw it like that, I hope it makes a lot more sense for you. All right, going through. All right, and so when you're labeling these, be sure you're doing your 5, 6, 7, 8, not 9, but 1. All right, and make sure you have your little TC there. All right, and then you're gonna have your so these are your roots. All right. Then you have your 3 trunks. All right. Now, when you're trying to remember and I think I explained this in the video, but you've got your upper, because C5 and 6 is high in your neck, your middle, all right, and your lower, all right. And then each one of these you're gonna give off and if you go from this side over here, well, that one doesn't work. Never mind. So I was gonna give you a shortcut, but it doesn't work. So here's your anterior division. Here's your posterior. Here's your anterior division. Here's your posterior. Here's your posterior division. Here's your anterior. All right. And then you have your, medial cord, your posterior cord, and your lateral cord. All right. And then you have your musculocutaneous right here, median, ulnar, radial, and axillary. All right. So if I were to, want you to know how to your brachial plexus, being able to draw it out like that very simply, I think that's probably about the simplest drawing you can make for it. Right there is really going to help you be able to know, what is coming off of what. If I asked, I don't know, the median nerve is a connection of which 2 cords. All right, well, draw it out. Lower or your lateral and medial cords are going to give off the branches. All right. So let's go back to this here. All right. Oh, sorry. There's one other thing I wanted to do while I had it up on sharing the main screen, and that was I don't really have a good nerves of the arm. All right. Okay. I'm wondering if I can get something bigger than this. I feel like this is not. Let's see if that will bring up. Let's see. Can I? Oh, perfect. Oh, beautiful. Okay. I think this should be kind of good. All right. So if I had a picture like this, all right, and I were having you identify the nerves in the arm, all right, where you're gonna come here is you got to know that your ulnar nerve is going to be on the medial part of your arm, all right. So it's going to be the medial most. That's going to come down here. I mean, you can see all the way up. It's medial. All right. Then off to the side, you're going to have a couple of different ones. Off to the side, you'll have one musculocutaneous, which is this yellow one right here. All right. You can see my screen, right? Okay. All right. And then you've got this little orange one that's coming out from behind the humerus, posterior, behind, coming from the posterior, and then kind of wrapping around here to the lateral part of the arm by the radius. That's going to be the radial nerve. All right, musculocutaneous doesn't go that deep in the arm. So if you're wondering like, oh, well, they're both lateral, which one is it? Well, look for the one that comes out from behind the humerus and goes further down the arm. And that one will be your biggest giveaway. And then, hey, you have this one coming right down the middle of everything. Well, that's going to be your median nerve. All right. And then if you're wondering what's left, axillary is just going to go to the axilla. All right. This area, all right, your armpit area is your axilla. All right. That's the word for it, the technical term. So, and so, yeah, you know, ulnar nerve, ulna, all right, radial nerve, radius, all right, medial, middle, axillary, axilla, all right. So things usually are their names make sense, all right. So let's now go ahead. We'll go back to the PowerPoint share. Now I think I have maybe a bigger. Okay, these are the nerves I want you to know for the lower. All right. So looking over here, might even see if I can blow this up a little bit more and bring this over. Okay. So let's look at this lower part, not this over here. All right. So if you're looking in this, all right, your obturator nerve is going to come through your obturator foramen. So if you learned, you know, your parts of the pelvis, then you know, oh, hey, look, that's the obturator foramen. I wonder what nerve that might be. We're just going to go with the obturator nerve because I remember that was the name and it goes through the obturator. So that seems to make sense. A plus for that point. And okay, then you've got in front, okay, the femoral nerve is big, fat one that comes on down. All right, what else did I want you to know? Femoral, obturator, lateral, femoral, cutaneous. All right, so what you're gonna have is you're gonna have this nerve that comes off to the side here. All right, and you can see it supplying nerves to the lateral part of the leg, and it's more in front, okay? All right, and your lateral femoral cutaneous, well, cutaneous is referring to the skin. All right, so it's really superficial, lot of sensory nerves there. All right, it is really what it is, okay? And so that can kind of help you. It's lateral, the femoral nerve and the lateral femoral cutaneous nerve are both on the anterior side of the femur, okay? Now when you get down to, okay, these sacral plexus branches, okay, sciatic, fibular, tibial, and pudendal, all right? Let's go here. Does it really show it quite well? I'll probably want to get another image. All right, but I'm gonna go ahead and describe, and I'll try and get an image up soon. But your sciatic nerve, all right, is gonna be a large one that comes down the posterior side of the leg. All right, and actually the sciatic nerve is really a combination of the fibular and the tibial nerves, or tibial. Okay, and the fibular nerve, all right. So that's going to end up going probably towards the lateral side of your leg where the fibula is, right? And your tibial nerve will stick towards the medial side of the leg, all right? And if you were to kind of feel your leg, you can see that there's a lot more meat on the anterior part of your leg on the lateral side. So if you see one curling around to the anterior part on your lateral side, then that's going to probably be your fibular nerve, all right? And then if you see something kind of behind sticking medial, but it's still maybe a little bit behind that tibia, that's going to be your tibial, all right, or tibial nerve. And then your pudendal nerve is actually the one that essentially is going to innervate your groin area. So simply put, so you'll look for one that kind of goes off to the that sacral basin there, all right, on the inside. And again, I'll post the image for the arm for that. But I think with that, let's go ahead and we'll move this down. I think, yeah, so we'll cover the muscular system next week. Any questions? Janelle, I messaged you back. You asked if I had gotten the things because I hadn't had them graded. The things graded. Yes, I received yours specifically. I have not gotten around to grade them. I originally was going to write all the rest of the tests, like finish writing all of them, get all your projects graded, finish the thing over this weekend. I actually didn't work today, but had family stuff going on and was not able to get almost any of it done. Much to my chagrin, although I did enjoy my time with family. But yeah, no, everything will be going up. Any questions or anything you want me to go over?
No questions. I just wanted to make sure that you got those.
Okay, perfect. Yep. Yeah, and if I do have some kind of an issue when I'm looking through closer at them, obviously, unless I definitely feel that it's not at all my responsibility, like you should have known. I've talked about this multiple times. If I see a mistake or something that, if I had corrected these earlier, I could have told you about this, then that's on me, and I'll definitely make sure that those mistakes aren't reflected in your grade. So, okay. But I usually, stuff like that, I don't think should. All right.
No worries.
Did that help? Kind of pull everything together for you?
It did.
Okay. All right. Good. Well, thank you. You have a good night, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Bye.